Well, hello, my beautiful flowers. Welcome to another episode of the Withered Flowers podcast. I am your host, Auntie Lura, and with me today is Digital Girl.
Hey, hey.
And today we are going to talk about chapter 5 of Tears on a Withered Flower. But before we begin, how are you doing, my friend?
You know, Hanging in there. Still winter, so I'm trying
Yeah,
to stay warm and dry.
I don't blame you. I mean, I will say that I am starting to see a little bit of spring weather. It's currently 48 where I'm at. I think the high today was 54. So, I have a love-hate relationship with spring. I like that it's still cool, but at the same time, I know it means summer's coming and then of course the pollen apocalypse. So,
Well, ma'am, we are not even close to spring. I'm just gonna put that out there for you and the listeners. It is still the butt crack of winter. We just had a blizzard a few weeks ago. We are not out of the clear. It's just rainy. And it is really appreciated because we had the snow from the blizzard on the East Coast. Still have snow on my rooftop that has yet to melt, and I had to climb over snow the other day just to get into the car. So we are not in the clear. Do not let Auntie Laura fool you. The spring has not sprung. Rest in peace. What is it? Pawtucket or
Satani
Pawtucket?
Bill.
He didn't like. He predicted 6 more weeks of winter. So we're not clear. Don't let Auntie Laura fool you for real. There's
Well,
more snow to come.
Well, keep in mind, I'm a little more south than what you are, so that's just my personal opinion, or at least that is my reality for where I'm at. So,
Yeah, but the rest of the real deal snow. Actually, right even now, I'm on the West Coast. Same weather that you're kind of experiencing now. It is cold, rainy, and miserable. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought I was going to escape. And it's all just a lie.
the warmth is a lie.
It's a warmth
Well,
of why it is still winterish. And I'm like, please spare me.
well, you know where another place that is currently raining is in the Tears of a Withered Flower universe. So, what say we get started and we just jump right into chapter 5?
Amen to that. Very accurate, very real. Ready? Like to hear? Here we go.
You like that segue, huh?
Mhm.
All right, my flowers. So, this particular episode or chapter starts off with where we left off from chapter 4. Taeha showed up with an umbrella. It's currently raining. Heisu was trying to figure out what she's going to do since her umbrella was broken. So basically, they're just standing out kind of in front of the flower shop. And she says, "Thank you, but it's fine. I live far away. You should head home." And so they're still both kind of standing there. And then he says, "This rain isn't letting up anytime soon. You can share my umbrella." And the next panel is her just kind of looking up at him, and then we get a little bit of a inner dialogue. She says, "It felt like every single path I took led straight to him, as if the world was mocking me for getting ahead of myself." And then the panel after that is just Taeha standing there just looking right at her with those, laser eye stare that's beaming right at her. And then she says, again, this is inner dialogue. And she says, "Well, this might end up being a bit awkward, but I don't want to keep turning him down when he's just probably trying to be nice." And so she finally decides to go with him and she says, "Thank you." And they begin to walk. And the last little bit of this dialogue says, "It wouldn't hurt to walk home with him just this once."
Okay, girl.
Break it down for me.
Break it down. My homegirl, he too, has been really trying to maintain the boundary between her and Teha because she's like, this man is not interested. I was fooling myself. And here we have him directly approaching her, not taking any of his little side shortcuts to the Korean barbecue or random sandwiches. He's directly approaching her and offering his help, which is Something that's making it I mean, I would've had, like, alarms going off, wee woo, that he's not just trying to be nice, homegirl. That man had already come into the flower shop.
Definitely. He had a mission. I
He
mean,
was
and especially
not letting it happen, not that ignoring me.
I mean, when you just get that panel of him just standing there with the umbrella with that laser focus, I mean, homeboy is on a mission. Yeah,
Like,
he is not gonna let up.
not at all, and like the rain, when he approached her, it's like, "Oh, it's gonna rain all night." I love the, like, series of panels because it's, like, 2 panels where he's holding the umbrella, and he's talking and not focusing on him at first. She's looking away because it's awkward, not gonna
Mhm.
lie. But when he just instead of, like, being deterred, he approaches closer and holds the umbrella over her head, and then he's just like, "Well, the rain isn't gonna let up," and neither is his attention. He didn't say that, but it's clear that that man is not letting her walk in the rain, which is something. Because any other
Yes.
man would have just been like, "Alright, well, you don't wanna
Yes.
go with me? Bye." This man was like, "No, no, no. I'm gonna convince you to walk with me."
And can I just say for a moment too, like, I just wanna give, like, him props because if you look at the way that he's holding the umbrella, like, he is trying to use it to shield her more than he's trying to use it to shield himself. And, and especially with with him being so tall, and I'm sure that's
Mhm.
probably got to be uncomfortable because he's probably kind of ducking a little bit, but I just want to give him props for that, you know, because I know that's, got to be tough.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know what? Good on him. He's a gentleman and I kind of like that. I admire that.
He is a persistent, tenacious gentleman, and you're correct. When we see when he approaches her with the umbrella, he makes a conscious effort to cover her first, and I just think that there's a awareness that he has of her that she does not currently have of him because she's just trying to convince herself. Looking at the, like, dialogue, she's over there trying to convince herself that this is all in her head and he has no ulterior motives, but that man is a man with a mission.
Oh, yeah, and that laser focus look is definitely an indicator of that, in my humble opinion.
Very much. You know what I like about this scene? I feel like it went from her thinking of him in such a way that she's just like, "All right, he's a weird guy. He's not interested. Oh, this is just a coincidence." And now she's looking at him and she basically capitulates to be like, "All right, fine. I'm gonna give in because it can't hurt to let him walk me home this once." But in reality, man.
Yeah. I mean, after, like, the chapter that we had, like, with the last one, where she's, feeling embarrassed because she dared to think, that he, might have a thing for her, I think this is kind of a big deal, like, she's actually, like, letting him walk her, and she's actually, like, kinda sorta giving him the time of day, whereas, like, she's had been talking about drawing lines and whatnot. So, I think this is a big step for her, So, and I will say that the umbrella thing will be coming up later in this chapter. So just keep that little particular feather in your hat, my flowers. So, as they continue to walk, we get this nice scene of them like at a crosswalk. They're just kind of standing in here. Obviously, you can see the height difference. It's a beautiful panel. And, then we have them like standing each other. He's just kind of like focus forward and she's looking slightly uncomfortable, kind of grabbing her purse strap. That thing you do when you're trying not to like be too close to somebody on the bus or the subway. She's got that kind of look going on.
Very defensive.
Yeah,
Yep.
like she's waiting for somebody to come snatch that purse. And then we get some more inner dialogue. Our walk back to my place was much quieter than I expected, but even the cramped space beneath the umbrella didn't feel so awkward. Thanks to the sound of the rain drowning out everything else. The tall young man seemed to be walking at half his usual pace. And I wondered if it was because of the pouring rain, and then we get, like, her thought. She says, "I always end up falling behind when I walk with Mincheol too. He's also on the taller side. Maybe it's a habit he picked up from slowing down for someone special." And just to kind of break down these couple of panels, like I said, it starts with them at the crosswalk, and then we get like a few panels of them just walking side by side as she has, these thoughts, thinking about how he's tall and he walks at a pace that seems slower. Because usually tall people, they have like quicker strides, or they
Mhm.
walk faster because they have longer legs, and obviously, she's a little shortcake. So I think that it is interesting how she says that she's always falling behind when she walks with Mincheol because he's on the taller side, but yet Taeha has no problem keeping up with her. So,
Yeah,
not that we didn't already know that Mincheol was a garbage flag,
that's
but I guess this
another
is
point on the wall of garbage.
exactly. I think this is like even more proof of just like how little that Mincheol thinks of her.
Yeah, from point A to point B. I think it's a visualize for the listeners. Jesus, like the top of Jesus' head barely reaches Teja's shoulder. So he's very tall. He has to be like what? He's over 190 centimeters. What is that? 6'3", 6'4"? She
Something like that,
can't
yeah.
he can't be he's like 3 apples high, maybe 5 feet, maybe like 160 centimeters. Like, she's not that tall. So, when they're walking side by side, the difference is stride. He is looking forward, but if you notice in the panels, he continues to, like, glance down at her even though she's not facing him. And there's a check, make sure he's still on pace,
Mhm.
or just because he just likes to look at her. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that it's a little bit of both,
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say column A, column B.
yeah, and I mean, it's a conscious effort to match her pace. And another thing you notice is something that we already had like put out there. He's definitely making sure that the majority of the umbrella is over her person because you
Mhm.
can see that in the panel when they're crossing the street, the umbrella is mostly over her, and his shoulder is basically getting wet in the rain. It's more exposed. Everything about what he's doing in this moment, including being silent, because he's not trying to like press her with conversation. He knows it's awkward, but he's intentional about making sure she gets home safe and dry and making her comfortable in an awkward situation where he intentionally approached her.
And, I was gonna bring that up too, and I'm glad you did with how they're walking in silence, because sometimes when you're in social situations, sometimes you might be out in the street and maybe a random stranger will be like, "Hey, share my umbrella." I mean, I've had that kinda happen,
Oh.
Yeah, well, actually, it wasn't, like, out in the street. It was, during COVID, and because I work in the healthcare industry, they were offering the vaccines to healthcare workers and teachers and, like, people like that. So, when I went to get my COVID shot, it was raining. I didn't have an umbrella, all I had was a hoodie, and this really nice lady who was a teacher at an elementary school was kind enough to share her umbrella with me.
Samaritans everywhere.
Yeah. So, but yeah, but like sometimes, you might have a situation where somebody's just trying to be kind. And I know in this day and age, and especially in this political atmosphere, but I digress, random acts of kindness aren't what they used to be, So I think that it says a lot that says that she thought it was going to be awkward, but she actually feels comfortable, it almost sounds like. The walk was quieter than I expected, even the cramped space, beneath the umbrella didn't feel so awkward, so it almost sounds like she feels mostly comfortable, considering, obviously. So, I think that speaks a lot to Taeha, how he's trying to give her a little bit of space because obviously they barely know each other. So
Mhm.
he's trying to afford her every consideration that he can give her. So I kind of like that. I kind of
I
like that
like
she
it
feels
too.
comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, in an awkward circumstance, you can make someone feel like being aware of how to make someone comfortable by trying to match their vibe a bit and match their mood, not to overpower them. It's something that is skill.
Hmm.
Um, I do want to bring to attention that in chapter 4, he had come into the flower shop. Yeah, came into the flower shop, bought roses, and left, right? After he noticed that Isu wanted to avoid him. But then he came back to the flower shop without the flowers and with the umbrella. So he made a stop, went home, or wherever he went to drop off those roses and came back with the umbrella specifically to come get her. And how would he know? But another thing I wanna bring to attention is, like you said, she was thinking about Mincheol, right? How he doesn't match her pace and she gets left behind, and then she thinks of the scene in the Korean barbecue where she saw him last and with his friends, and the lovely blonde young lady that was sitting at the table with him and the friends, she thinks that he's in a relationship with that person, and she thinks that the blonde girl is Taeha's special person, despite the fact that this man is literally back to walk her home. This is not a random act of kindness. She really is going out of her way to convince herself to talk herself off the ledge that this man is interested.
Yeah, she really is, but in some ways, I kinda can't blame her, like, knowing what we know about her relationship with Mincheol.
Understand it perfectly. I just think, it's kind of funny because she really is doing her best not to get ahead of herself to the point that she's getting ahead of herself in another way.
Yeah, you're not wrong, actually.
But let's get into it because I really want to discuss what she says next. So I'm gonna read off these few panels,
Okay,
right?
go for it.
So talking about getting ahead of yourself, rather than keeping that idea in that, he picked up from slowing down for someone special because, he's thinking of the other blonde girl in the Korean barbecue spot, she goes out of her way to say, I don't think your girlfriend would be happy. He says this out loud to Taeha. If she saw us walking under one umbrella. And she's not looking at him when she says this. And Taeha actually turns around and looks at her while they're still walking. And he responds, what makes you think I have a girlfriend? And this is when Hasu turns and she says, oh, you don't? I saw you with someone at the Korean barbecue. And then Taeha looks at her and he has a smirk on his face and he interrupts her before she says anything else and says, we're not dating. And he goes on to say, she's just a friend. And he makes direct eye contact with Hasu when he says it. Haso looks away and thinks, right, just a friend. Taeha, being the fresh man that he is, um, goes on to say, "I swear," and he's looking at her and she's looking away. But one of the things I want the our listeners to know is that the posture that he has while she's looking away is quite different from what he had been doing before. He had been very, walking straight, not trying to invade her space. But now he's invaded her space because he now has the arm that's holding the umbrella over her, wrapped around her a little bit without touching her. And he's like looking down at her. He's almost at like behind her holding the umbrella. And then he is directly behind her when he says, "I swear I'm telling the truth." And then
And she looks really surprised at that too,
yeah.
and I kinda feel like it's, like, maybe a combination of a couple of different things, like the closeness, the fact that
Mhm.
he's now telling her that, "Oh, she's not my girlfriend, she's just a friend," and then the fact that, like, that particular word bubble where he's like, "I'm telling you the truth," it's almost like in bold font kind of, so he is, like, very emphatic about that. But I do wanna
Mhm.
go back, like, 1 second. I wanted to talk
Mhm.
about, like, his face when she first says, "I don't think your girlfriend would be happy," and he's kinda, like, giving her this kinda, like, side eye, and to be fair, I know it's because she is literally walking beside him, so he is literally looking to the side, but just that face, man, that's just like, "Are you serious right now?" Like, that's the kind of face I'm getting.
Honestly, because he was it's a record scratch moment because I don't think he was expecting her to, like, come out and say something like that because honestly, Auntie, that puts Jesu understands how that sounds
Mm,
because it indicates to the listener, indicates to the receiver of this conversation that you noticed him in the Korean barbecue spot when you were going out of your way to ignore him. And it's kinda I was like, I wanna say coy to be like, "Oh, well, your girlfriend wouldn't like it." Like, I know she does not deliver the information that way, but
Mhm.
if it were a flirtation situation, that'd be like, "What would your girlfriend say if she saw you walking under an umbrella?" I don't think she understands.
Yeah, and I mean, if you also look at his body language too in that one
Mhm.
panel, he looks very like stiff,
Yeah.
like almost like taken aback. I think maybe instead of like the seriously vibe, I think it's probably more of like, I think he's more taken aback by anything that like, she would notice that another girl or woman was with him. So,
Mhm.
like he looks very stiff. And I mean, I will say that like throughout the series, we do get the sense that like Taeha is like a very stoic kind of character, but he looks especially like stiff to me anyway, in this one panel.
I
Like,
just honestly think that you are not, like you're on the money with this. I don't really that probably came out of left field for him because like how do you go from being like this is an umbrella, let's be quiet and walk me home to what about your girlfriend? Like, sir, ma'am, do you even know like this man's name? Why are you talking about this girl?
yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think this is a very logical question, because if you see like two men and two women going to a restaurant and like it's like boy girl for a lack of a better way to put it when they're sitting down. I think that is a logical leap to think that, oh, this is maybe like a double date. Even if they aren't like dating monogamously, maybe they're just all going on a date together. So of course there would be like some type of interest on his part, and I'm just saying this as the point of view from Jesus. So I could see why she would ask this question, and I know she's asking this for a couple of reasons, or at least in my opinion. Like, first, all of us women have gone out to the bar with our friends and we start dancing with random people drunk off our ass. And then, we all get that one guy who tries to hit on us, but there's something seems sus. And then it's like, "Oh, well, I'm sure your girlfriend wouldn't like this." Sometimes we as women will use this question as kinda like a feeler to see, is this man attached? Like, what is his deal? And I feel like that's what she's doing by asking this question. I think she's asking it for a couple of reasons. One, I think she's trying to, find out what his deal is. And two, I think it's her way of reminding herself not to get ahead of herself, even though she is getting ahead of herself, as Digital Girl just said earlier, And I mean, frankly, I can't say that I blame her because I wouldn't want to be, horning in on somebody else's man, and I definitely don't want to get in that type of drama. So I could see why she would ask that question.
Yeah, but think in that moment where he was willing, like he was very willing to just walk in silence and walk her home, right? Like I think the extent of the advances that he was going to take were just the walk home. Now, and it wasn't awkward. It was just completely silent
Mhm.
with a distance between them, right?
Mhm.
When you put personal information in there in that manner, he's like, "Oh, so you're interested in my relationship status." And he closed the distance between them and under that umbrella real quick.
Yeah, you did.
It went from space enough that their shoulders don't bump to him being like directly behind her, basically towering over her, telling her that he does not have a girlfriend. He's a free agent. So I think she set the thing about it is that I get exactly what you're saying, Auntie, right? When you're in a situation or scenario where you're dancing, you're having a good time, you're flirting, there's a situation, there's an aura of either attraction or flirtation where that's what the vibe is, you wanna, like, suss it out, or you wanna kinda figure out where are you at so I can either decide I'm walking away or if we're,
Mhm.
like, actually, like, sharing a moment. In this particular point, what I mean is I think, yeah, I would've probably just let it slide and then walked her home and went on his way. But she put that personal information and it's very like I said, it's 0 to 100 because you don't really you go to from dear customer to, "Hey, what about your girl?"
Yep.
That's an indicator to the person receiving that information, you're paying attention and you're interested in me, even if you won't say it. So that could evoke like some, levels of interest there that it could be, it's a coy conversation, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah. And I mean, he don't seem to mind because I mean, with the when she after she asks that question and then, and he's like, "Oh, what makes you think I have a girlfriend?" And then now it's her turn to look a little put out. And then like that one panel where he's kind of like smiling slash smirking a little bit. He's like, "Oh, we're not dating. She's just a friend, I swear." And like the way that like he maneuvers himself around her, it's like,
oh,
"Bro, that is some slick shit right there." Homeboy has some moves, cause I mean, he goes from like he's like a ninja. I really wonder if like he like took some notes from like Kakashi Sensei from like Naruto because like at first he's like beside her and then all of a sudden like he is behind her and like the way that like this is depicted in my mind feels like very intimate in a way you
oh, it
know
is very intimate. He is basically not wrapped around her, but towering over her in such a way, like the distance is gone.
Yeah,
Like
there is, like, no distance, and he is just, like, close, and, like, that's the
real
type of
close.
close and especially with how tall he is, like, I mean, I feel like you could just, like, feel I don't know what the word that I wanna say, but I feel like you could just feel the vibes he's putting out, or at least that's in my head canon, right? Like, I feel like you can just feel the interest and, like, I don't know what word I wanna use. Not
It's not aura, but it is like you basically his coat has to be brushing her a little bit. Um, there's a aura. Laura, I know that's not what you wanted, but it's an aura. You could literally it went from I'm just protecting you to so you noticed
Mhm.
and his whole posture shortage.
Yeah, like, everything kinda changed, I feel like this is when the dynamic is gonna start changing between them,
Oh,
because he is definitely putting out the "I'm interested" vibes,
oh,
and I think she feels that, which is why she is looking a little, like, wide-eyed and shocked, and I mean, I ain't gonna lie, if someone that good looking was, like, standing behind me, I'd just be like, "Oh lord." You know?
and I think honestly, that because the way that her face looks in it, with like her eyes are wide when he's like, "I'm
Mhm.
telling you the truth." I think she's like, "Oh, I might have, I made a mistake. I made a mistake.
Yep.
Abort, abort." Oh, it's
Error
funny
404.
sound on it, like, but you know what? Like said that she like really got too much dip on her chip and she kind of got ahead of herself because she realized she got ahead of herself with that question. It came out of her mouth 'cause now she's gotten a reaction from Taeha that she did not intend, and she's trying to, like, back down now because she's, like, a little bit flustered, and she just after he says, "Believe me," she's like, "Right, right, I believe you," and you could see a little sweat drop on
Mhm.
her temple, and then she thinks to herself, "That was an odd thing for me to say." Yes, it was. It's not like this is some kind of interrogation. Her like, that was her internal dialogue, and then we see Taeha who looks off to the side, and we see the little like the sound effect for a honk and he's aware that a car is like coming up and approaching. So he grabs her shoulder and spins her so that she's facing like away from the car and his back is facing the road and he has her in an embrace and the car speeds past and splashes them both. So Jesus like taken aback from this moment because it happened really quickly. And now the distance that was there is gone. She's facing him, and he's like basically towering over her, covering her from getting splashed. And he then looks down at her and says, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. The car was coming at us fast, and I didn't want you to get hurt." Jesus, who was still like kind of shook, it's like, "Don't worry about it." And she thinks, "My gosh." why would anyone drive so fast on a street like this? And it's a very like narrow street. And then she realizes that her back is against a brick wall, and
Mhm.
this man basically has her semi pinned against the wall, and his leg is kind of like almost in between her legs. She says, and looks down, and she's like, "Why am I standing?"
And this next panel, my beautiful flowers, it says, "I'm a good size, aren't I?" And she's like, "Sorry?" And he's like, "Look, I managed to shield you from all the water because I'm so tall." And she's like, "Right."
Loaded? Sir, you took total advantage of that moment. Like,
Yeah, he
fly.
did.
He's a
Yeah, he
fly
did.
fox,
Yes,
okay?
he is, because just I mean, obviously, like, he really is looking out for her, but homeboy, like, Broseph totally took advantage of the situation to get a little closer, because like,
Mhm.
because that's almost a wall slam, like, anybody who's, like, into, like, anime, like, my husband, like, makes fun of me because I do think the wall slams are kinda sexy, um sue me, and sometimes he'll joke, and, like, pin me against a wall, and I'll be like, "Oh, senpai," and we just laugh. But anyways, TMI, sorry. Um,
Gotta love with a little wall slam from senpai or from oppa, but he's not oppa.
no.
But, he's a big boy.
Mhm.
He's
Yeah,
a
he is a
decent
big
size,
boy.
he says. What are we talking about, baby? What are you saying? Like, sir,
Yeah, and, like, just her expression, she's like, "Sorry?" Like, she really is like, "I don't know what this dude is talking about," because I mean, when a man says ask you, "Am I a good size?" or "I'm a good size, aren't I?" I mean, let's be honest, my beautiful flowers. We are not thinking about your height. We are thinking about other parts, and I'm just gonna try to keep this PG. Even though this is an adult manhwa, but we are thinking of other body parts, you know?
Yeah,
So
in between her knees, like, sir, took
mm,
full advantage of the moment because he basically had her in a brace just because he swung her around to keep her away from, like, walking on into the oncoming splash from a speeding car. He could have let her go immediately, but he did not do that. He basically, like, boxed her in. She was pressed up against the wall, didn't even realize it in the moment, but then when she realized it, she's like, happening and why is this happening?
yeah, and I think because of this little incident right here, I really think this is where things kind of start to change between them a little bit.
Mm.
And I am just speaking from the lens of someone who is very current on the story right now. But I think this is where this all kind of begins, because after this little incident, it shows him they're starting to walk away, and then we get more of Jesu's inner dialogue. She says, "I'm starting to think I wasn't mistaken about his intentions. Why else would he be so nice to someone he barely knows? Look at that. The other side of his coat is soaked, but I'm completely dry. He must be doing that on purpose. Should I ask if he's trying to flirt with me? That way, I know where to draw the line between us." And then after we get that dialogue, it shows them walking up to her house. And all of a sudden, she says, "Why are you doing this all for me?" And then he's like, "Huh, you caught on." And then she looks a little pained, like that's a bit of a pained expression. And he's like, "I just want us to be acquaintances." And what he is giving her more of that intense eye contact. He is literally turning to look her in the face. And she says, "That won't work." And then he says, "Now that's a bit cold. I'm just curious, why won't it work?" And she says to him, "You have no reason to be acquaintances with an older lady like me. You're still young, and I'm sure you're very popular with girls your age." And then he comes back to her, or sorry, his comeback to her is, "So if I'm young and popular with girls, I can't be acquaintances with someone like you?" And she says, "That's right, you can't. So it's best that you stop here." And then with that, she says, "This is where I live. Thank you for walking me home." Um, and
Made it
then
clear.
yeah, like, and to be fair, at this point, we understand why she's doing this, right? Because she's technically with Mincheol, and again, I'm saying his proper name, not the nickname that we call him on the server.
Good
Um,
job, girly.
Thank you. I am getting better. So we understand why she is drawing this line, which is kind of an important parallel because of the chapter we got the last time where we saw Minchol at work and then his interaction with Ari.
Yep.
Minchol did not draw any such line. There was no delineation of
Not
I'm with someone. Here she is, and even though she doesn't say that she's in a relationship, she just says, "Don't become friends with me. You're young, you should be with people your own age and not so many words."
reasonable and practical enough. I don't think there is anything wrong with her making it clear that this isn't like she's not entertaining this behavior because she can't. She can't. She doesn't want to, and it doesn't make her feel comfortable. And they don't
Mhm.
really know each other. So there's nothing wrong with setting a boundary with someone to not lead them on and not like lead yourself into trouble. She
Yeah.
was being very practical.
I agree. I think that by her just being honest and because nobody ever wants to hurt anyone, right? Like nobody wants to hurt the other person's feelings. But at the end of the day, you have to worry about your own feelings. You have to worry about your own well being. And you can't always like worry about how the other person feels because you have
No.
to worry about yourself. And it's not being selfish. It's just, if you don't take care of yourself, who will? So so I think that honestly, she knows that he's also a younger man, and sometimes with that even comes with like different problems of its own, and maybe that's just something that she doesn't want to deal with, you know?
Well, she shouldn't have to. Like, she's in a relationship, right? So she doesn't want to entertain any kind of ambiguity. She doesn't want to entertain anything knowing full and well that it could be taken as acceptance of his flirtation. It's clear that Tejas flirting.
Totally.
She wants to shut it down. She has no loyalty to him. She doesn't know. She doesn't even know his name. He's Rose Guy.
Mhm.
Okay. So there's no reason that she has to feel bad about telling him right here, right now, I need you to fall back, go play with girls, and he like clarifies, which is he's like, Because I seem popular with girls, I can't be acquaintances with you." And she says, "No." She is very clear about the space. I appreciate that because, she is an attractive woman and he's an attractive man. And you they're not friends, they are strangers. There's no reason that seems legit for her to entertain his attentions.
Yeah, and what really also I don't I'm not gonna say what gets me, but, like, one thing that I notice is that, like, Haw comes back with that classic, "Why are you being so cold?" And I've had men tell me that before, if I express that I don't want to be in their company, and they're like, "Oh, why you gotta be so cold?" And it's like, "Well, I tried being polite, and that didn't work, so here we
Right.
are." And that's, like, the first thing, like, most men will say is, "Why are you being so cold?" Just because you got rejected, And I will say that he's being a pretty good sport. I mean, he's obviously disappointed that she is not returning his affection or interest. Maybe that's a better way to put it. She's
Yep.
not returning his interest, but realistically, she knows that he's younger and that he should be with people around his own age. And then she's like, "Yeah, that's right. You can't." Like when he asked, "Oh, well, let's be acquaintances and all that." And she was very clear, so it's best that you stop here. And I'm sure that as flattering as it is to have somebody like Taeha attention, or get his attention, at the same time, you want to be realistic, and practical, and she's already with someone. So I'm sure that this is a headache that she doesn't want, which I don't blame her. As crappy as her relationship is with Minchol, and will
That's yeah, this is where she's at. She knows that like there's nothing good that can come out of doing something that is not right for your relationship. Even if it's a good
exactly.
relationship, you're still in a relationship. And you know what? applaud her for drawing the line in that moment. Even if it seemed a little flirty in the beginning with the whole addressing the girlfriend, she literally like, shut that down. And that was a good thing that she did because, as you said, in contrast with Mincheol and the whole situation with Ari, where he's telling everybody he's single in the office and then letting her cling on to him. She doesn't want this young man to cling to her. She wants it to be clear it's her. And you know what? Taeha, despite the moment where he sulked and was like, "That's cold," he asks again with consent, "Do you want us to be strangers from now on?"
Mm.
And she doesn't look at it when she says it, but she says it, "Yes, let's be strangers." And so Taeha responds, "Okay." And he looks at her with his razor sharp eyes like he always does. And he says, "I'll be a good boy." He turns around and he walks away. He just walks away, leaves her at the, stuff. And she thinks to herself, he left without another word instead of being stubborn like I thought he would. His obedient response mystified me. For some reason, his tall, confident figure seemed to be hiding an aching pain. You understand why he's so interested in someone like me? I suppose he's just young and curious. That's what boys around his age do. So she like walked down the stairs, walked into her house, and in the previous chapter, she knew it was going to rain. She left a good umbrella for Minchol. When she walks into the vestibule, there is the umbrella that she left for Minchol, who did not pick it up on his way to work. So she looks at this umbrella, which is abandoned and sitting there, and she thinks to herself, looks like Minchol forgot his umbrella. And she thinks back to when she was at the Korean barbecue on a shift, and it's a flashback to hear one of the customers talking. Is listen, men are simple creatures. As long as he has a smart, caring wife, he'll go out, make money, and do everything for his family. So she has a moment where she thinks, maybe I'll go and pick him up from work today. And she grabs the good umbrella and she says, I'm sure Minchol will like it.
And that, my beautiful flowers, will tell you what is going to be coming up after we take a quick little break. Because every time we talk about Minchol, I cannot help but sigh. So please give Auntie some grace.
Great. See you after the break.
Oh, yes, we will be right back. And we are back.
Yes.
All right, are you ready for the back half of this?
Yeah, I'm ready to continue on this journey of chapter 5. Rip roaring and ready to go.
All right. So, as we left off, we saw that Jesus was thinking about something she heard one of the customers say at the barbecue restaurant. It's some guy sitting there with his colleagues, and he's like, as long as he has a smart, caring wife, he'll go out, make money, and do everything for his family. So, of course, this gives Jesus the idea that maybe she should go pick up Minchol from work since he did not bring his umbrella. And she is like, I'm sure Minchel will like it. So the next panel we get is our cover, which is gorgeous as always. This cover is shows Taeha, standing what we assume to be his apartment. We have the view of him like we're facing behind him, and he has his bouquet of roses with petals all over the place. I will say that this panel has a lot of grays and blacks, kind of monochromatic. kind of similar
Mhm.
to what we had the last chapter with pops of red. So it's very slick and very fancy, actually.
Very fancy. It's very, I like this panel. It's stark, but also very sophisticated, very sleek, very
Oh,
demure, very mindful. And it just shows how tall this man is. He's drawn very lengthy.
yeah, he's
He's a
got
big
legs for
boy.
days.
Legs for days.
I mean, he did say he was a good size, so
And he was absolutely correct.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, we'll find that out later. Anyways, moving on, because Auntie is trying not to be a perv. Alright, so, the next panel that we get after our beautiful chapter cover, we see Hey Sue, looks like she's walking towards some kind of building. We see a couple of people going in and out. The next panel we get is she's standing there, and it looks like she is trying to call Mincheol from her cell phone, and it just comes up, "The person you are trying to reach is not available." So she's looking down on her phone and she is having some inner dialogue here. Says, "Looks like we missed each other. He probably didn't see my text about meeting him here because his phone died. It's my fault for showing up so impulsively. I'll just head back home and before she can finish that piece of inner dialogue, we get a panel of Minchol and Ari sharing an umbrella. They're kind of chatting. Jesus kinda has a look of, like, "What's going on here?" And then everybody is facing each other. And Minchol, who is holding the umbrella that him and Ari are sharing, she says Ari, I mean, "Huh? Is she staring at us? Why?" And then Minchol says, "Whoa, seriously? You came to pick me up just because it's raining?" And he says, "Ari, this is my relative." And then we see a word bubble that says, "Oh, I had no idea. I'm so sorry." And poor Jesus is just standing there. Okay. Auntie is taking a
Yeah.
deep cleansing breath. Sorry.
I feel so sorry for Hazel on this panel because she was trying to do something to demonstrate that she is a loving and mindful wife that wants to help. And she did she was thinking of Mitchell from the moment she put the umbrella out in the last chapter to the moment she picked it back up because he didn't pay attention and she brought it so that she could make sure that he got home dry and she has to witness him walking out of the building with the umbrella under an umbrella with another girl. And it's not even that he was under the umbrella with another girl. It was that he she he was letting Ari basically press to him, clinging to his arm. Like her both of her hands are on his forearm. And she's basically like holding on to him in the rain. So it looks very intimate, very different from what Taeha and Jesus situation was up until Taeha
Yep.
got the cue that she paid attention to the fact that he had a girlfriend. And he just like, "I'm gonna close this gap." That would have been suspect, but it was clear that Minchal was allowing Ari to be in this personal space without a care in the world. To Jesus' face, he says, "This is a relative,
Oh my god.
a relative."
Okay, my beautiful flowers. I am going to try to be calm, cool, and collected like the auntie that I am.
Mm.
So, this is where we start to see what a piece of shit Menchal is. And for all the shippers out there that might be listening to this, I don't give a fuck what you say. This man introduced Jesus as his relative. His relative, which is
Denied
technically
her.
not even true because they're no longer married. So, yeah, yeah. And what's worse is like Ari's reaction when she sees Jesus looking at them, right? Because she's got this look of attitude. Like, why is she staring? And she's clinging on to Minchol. Looks like she's clinging on to him like a little bit harder. Like she's scared that somebody's going to take him away. But girl, just fucking
Mhm.
take him. But anyway, let me stop. I am a calm, cool, and collected auntie. Cleansing breath. All right.
Cleansing breath. I do think in that moment, Ari was just like, "Who's this girl and why?" Which was like a knee jerk kind of mean girl reaction. I get it, but the way that they like talked about her in the face, like, "Who's this weirdo?" And then Mitchell basically denied any real relationship with her, talking about she's a relative. Meanwhile, he's trying to like shove his hands up her shirt and down her pants
Mhm.
couple of days ago, and she was, like, dead tired after working 50, 11 shifts. It just really shows you who understands what boundaries are, right? And it
Yep.
really she values their relationship, and despite the fact that they're not married, she's making sure that she keeps the boundaries up so that she's not entertaining any attention, not that she was ever expecting any attention from anyone. She's not entertaining anything. Whereas Mincheol, who already told people at work he's single, is basically playing in her face and being the type of person that he is, already know that he's going to make Jesus feel some kind of way. That is not gonna be a good thing when he
No.
opens his mouth.
Yeah, because the next panel we get after that, Jesus is really seeing them. The next panel, we see Minchol is whispering to Ari, she's kind of like a cousin, and she's like, got it, nod, nod. And I'm
Mhm.
just like, kind of like a cousin, so you would willingly fuck your cousin? Whew, my beautiful flowers.
Alabama Slim?
My beautiful flowers.
She ain't nobody cousin and a blurry little babies.
This man triggers me.
Trigger.
Yeah. All right.
The
So,
Yeah, literally, he went out of his way to downplay the relationship between him and Jesus so that he could keep Ari on a hook. Let's be real here.
yep.
Uh, because there's no if that's your wife, your girlfriend, there's no need to lie. But he wanted to keep Ari on the hook because he wanted to entertain her. So he deliberately misled this young woman to believe that the relationship between Jesus and him is not what it is. And that is basically, it's not a mission, that is straight up lying. And
Yes.
and then it's like Ari didn't even let her little like, tenant fly up to be like, that sounds strange. She wanted to accept it because she likes him. Right?
Yeah, and that's what's, like, another thing that sticks out to me too is the fact that she never questioned this, because it's obvious by the way Jesus is looking at them that she is locked and not happy. I mean, this is like a not happy face for Jesus, and I'm sure that Jesus is doing all she can to hold in what's going on, right? And I don't know, I have issues with Ari, but we will get to that in future episodes. But for now, we're just going to put a pin on my opinion of Ari. But she does like to play the clueless card ish. So the next panel that we get.
Wait. I just want to say something before you go to the next
Oh,
panel
sure,
because
sure,
this is
sure.
it's about Ari, and I just wanted to put it out there that when it comes to being a girl's girl, she's not one. Because even knowing that Jesus is related to Mincheol, and I use that term liberally, she does not address Jesus at all.
No, she
She doesn't
doesn't.
say hello. She doesn't say hello. She doesn't introduce herself. She doesn't show any particular kindness, knowing the relationship is different. She does nothing to address Jesus in any way. Which is,
Yeah.
I don't think that's there's no kindness there.
No, there
Uh,
isn't. And I think a lot of that just stems from Mincheol's attitude because if you look at his face, he looks like super annoyed and he just has this like negative aura about him. So I'm sure Ari's picking up on that. She's probably thinking that this is somebody that he does not like to deal with, which she's not far off the mark, technically speaking. So I
right.
think that because of his attitude, I think that is reflecting on how she is going to interact with Jesus, which is virtually nothing. Like they don't say a word to each other, although I'm sure Jesus is very hurt right now seeing him with another woman, even though they're just walking under an umbrella. But I feel like Ari is picking up the vibes that Mitchell's putting out when it comes to how he feels about Jesus.
His relative.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were saying you were going to go on to describe the panels. Go forth, my girl.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I get triggered.
With good reason.
Yeah. All right. So the next panel we get is Minchell smiling that fake fucking ass smile. It's like, "Looks like I got myself an umbrella. You should head home now, Ari." And he's like waving her goodbye. And she's like, "Sure, see you tomorrow, Mincheol." And meanwhile, Jesus is just kind of like standing there looking very downtrodden. And then he starts in.
Mm.
I am being calm. What the hell has gotten into you now? When did I ever ask you to pick me up from work after all the years of acting like some emotionless robot? Hello, are we just going to keep standing here in the rain? And then she asks, "Who was that?" And he's like, "Huh? Who was that woman with you?" "Oh, Ari? She's an accounting clerk at my office, just an acquaintance." And then he keeps going with his little tirade. "Gosh, ease up a bit, will you? I said she's just a coworker. Am I not allowed to talk to her just because she's a woman?" And then she says, "No, I'm just honestly, this is getting a bit ridiculous. You might not be aware of this because you have no social life, but normal people are close with their coworkers and friends regardless of their gender." Okay, so I just want to let you know what's kind of happening in this panel. So as he is starting in on her about why she dared to ask a single question about why he's with another woman, he takes the umbrella. And I want to point out that he is not even trying to hold it over her, he has it over
Oh,
himself. And she is standing in the fucking rain as he is just going off about how she doesn't know anything because she doesn't have a social life. And he has gaslit her again into her thinking that she is the problem.
yeah, that's crazy. Like, it's clear there's an imbalance in the dynamic between them. Not like he goes in on her without even giving her the space to talk. And it's a very he goes on the defensive. And it's kind of funny because when she asked him who Ari was, he says just an acquaintance. And I think it's really ironic that when she was in that same position with Taeha, and he says, "I want to be acquaintances," she realized right then and there that the the desire that he had to be close to her didn't make sense and would be inappropriate for the relationship that she's in. So she shut that off. Meanwhile, Charles like, any women can be acquaintances. You can be close. You just don't have a life, so you don't know what friendship even looks like because you got no friends. Literally. And then he just like he's so very defensive and kind of derisive. Not kind of, he's derisive to her.
Mhm.
And he's like basically dogpiling on her and then leaving her in the rain, despite the fact that she went out of her way to bring him an umbrella because she cares about him. He's like, "Oh, well, you've been emotionless doll all this time. Now you want to come bring me an umbrella?" Everything she does is kind of damned if she does, damned if she doesn't.
Yeah, it really is.
Like dead serious. Like it's kind of crazy that you would talk to somebody this way without even a breath and then snatch the one thing that she brought you to share when you had no problems sharing an umbrella with your colleague who's just your acquaintance and letting her cling to you. You leave the person that's you're supposed to love and remarry in the rain. Make it make sense, my dude. Like make it make sense for
Yeah.
everyone.
I
And he's raiding her while she's standing in the rain.
Yep. No thought for her comfort at all. And honestly, she's asking a legitimate question. I know that he tells her, "Don't call me your husband. It's embarrassing." And he is like, "Yeah, yeah, we'll get married once we get our debt paid off." So he has made these promises to her, which he obviously doesn't want to keep. And it just makes me angry that he keeps doing this to her and again making it seem like she's the problem, right?
Yeah.
And just like you said, he's like, "Oh, well, you don't know this, but people can be friends regardless of gender." It's like he's talking to a 5-year-old, and it's just ridiculous. And then the next panel, right, that we get after that barrage of shit talk from him,
Insult.
he's like, "So stop making a big deal out of nothing. It's embarrassing." And what gets me is that she hasn't said one word. He's the one that's making the big deal here. He's the one who is basically making it seem like she's the one with the attitude when it's
Yep.
obviously him, you
All
know?
him, actually. He flew off the handle as soon as she asked who Ari was. And that is indicative of guilt, but he doesn't feel any guilt.
Nope.
He literally tells her to stop making a big deal when he's the one making a big deal in the rain about it. He could have, been dismissive and be like, "Oh, that's just my coworker. We were sharing an umbrella because I forgot it." But he made such a big deal about it in that moment. And people always like, well, not always. That's a hyperbole. I've noticed that in the early chapters of this manga, people have characterized Jesus as this timid person. And I don't think she's timid. She actually addressed her concern right then and there with Mincheol. She didn't wait till he got home. She didn't walk in silence. She literally asked him, "Who was that woman?" And he flew off the handle and handled it so inappropriately that I don't blame her for clamming up, you know?
Yeah, I don't either. Like, because I'll be honest, like, in some ways, I do think that she is kind of timid. And hear me out. Yes, she did bring this up, but she did not push the issue. And it's for obvious reasons. And I know I'm going to be making a general assumption here, but the thing is that when people are in verbally abusive relationships, they are not going to go out of their way to get more shit thrown at them verbally, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. So it makes sense that she is timid, at least when it comes to Minchol. Or maybe timid's not the best word. I wouldn't say subservient, not really, but she does give him a lot of leeway that he does not deserve, especially considering that he never considers her ever. Ever since we saw him in chapter 1. And then even when we saw them talk about like the debt and everything else. He has never given her any consideration at all in any form. And if he did have love, it is totally gone now, in my humble opinion. And I feel like
yeah,
this scene right here is definite proof of that. And the
it
fact
is
that
definitely.
every chapter that we get of him thus far, he always talks about how embarrassing she is.
Honestly, I don't think, thinking of the ways that she's characterized, I think she in dealing with the man who basically will fly off the handle if she even opens her mouth, it's kind of like picking the path of least resistance, where
Yes.
she'd rather not have continue to yell at her. She'd rather stay quiet than to have the whole situation continue. But ironically, in this particular situation, when she's like looking down and she looks very bruised, not because he hit her, but he's being very verbally abusive to her.
Yeah,
I
very.
I find it kind of funny that the thing that she thinks about is Taeha asking if they could be acquaintances. Like it flashes in her head while he's continuing to berate her. And she just thinks, I don't know why I heard his low, gentle voice at that moment, as if I was still standing under his umbrella, making a big deal out of nothing. So she's standing in the rain. Minchell basically has the umbrella over himself, and she's thinking about how Taeha asked her to be acquaintances and she turned her down. And yet again, she feels shame, not because of Minchell's words so much, but because she made a mountain out of a molehill in the conversation she had with Taeha, um, which made her feel on top of like the situation she's dealing with in the moment, made her feel embarrassed.
I
And
mean, that
she,
would make me feel
yeah,
embarrassed too, because you were trying to do something sweet and thoughtful, and then you get pissed on it, for lack of a better way to put it. I mean, that would make me feel embarrassed too, because it just goes back to the how dare I hope for this one thing that I've been wanting, which she's been wanting more connection with him. But what's interesting to me is the fact that even when he tries to initiate intimacy, she turns him down. And granted, she's tired, but honestly, I feel like there's more going on there that she doesn't even realize. realize on the level she doesn't realize.
He knows better. She knows, like he doesn't listen, and that's it's a hot topic, and depending on who you're talking to, like when you're in a relationship with someone, intimacy is a part of it. And that intimacy can come in the form of physical contact. It could come as like a physical expression of it. It could come as sharing intimate details, signs of affection, showing love. To be honest with you, woman or man owe somebody sex for sex sake. That is not how the body works. And unfortunately, in the situation that Isu is in with Mitchell, he does the absolute least to even deserve sex. I don't think you're supposed to like slave away to have sex with your significant other, but there's a level of consideration, of
Mhm.
affection, of mental stability, of connection that is blatantly
Missing.
missing from here. And I don't know about you. I am a woman and I want to feel safe, desired, and happy with the person that I'm with, even if it's superficial before I decide to let them jump on me and hump on me.
Oh, and that's
He's
why
not giving any of that.
yeah, and that's why I kind of feel at this point in their relationship, it's on a level that she may not even realize. Because I mean, if you really, really think about it, and if you really, really look, at their relationship, she claims to love him, right? And she does do things for him. But if you really look at it, she does it more out of habit and to keep him happy than to make him happy. With the whole making him fresh soup every day and making sure he has clean clothes and stuff like that. Like, she does do things for him, but it's more out of necessity than it is for love. That's why I think we are seeing chapter by chapter, we are seeing the breakdown of their relationship, but I think this is where you really begin to see it all really break down, and I know, and like I said, I know she says that she loves him, and I think that she believes that. I just kind of feel like if she really did love him the way that she thinks she loves him, I think that some of the things I feel like she would do more things out of love. I'm sorry. I may not be verbalizing what I'm trying to say, but I feel like
Yeah, try to interpret it. I think you think that the attention that she shows to him is perfunctory, which I unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, because there's nothing unfortunate about it. I disagree with that. I think she does show a level of consideration to Mincheol that's not reciprocated, but she continues to do it because he wants to, not because she has to, because regardless of what she does, he doesn't appreciate it, right? But she does it because she wants a happy home with the person that she loves. And continuing to do it, if she didn't love him at all, she wouldn't do it. She would have been gone a long time ago. But I do think she does love him. I don't think the fire is there. I don't think their passion is there. But I don't think what she does for him is perfunctory. I think she just does it because wants to demonstrate that she actually does care. Like with the with the exception of him trying to like jump her bones when she's not in the mood, she has never pushed him away even when he like insulted her and then hugged her. Like it's unfortunate, right? This is not a great situation. In the last 5 chapters, there has not been a situation where it was ideal the way that they were in an ideal environment where he's being like saccharine sweet and affectionate and loving and all these things, and she doesn't reciprocate.
I don't know. Like I respectfully disagree on some points. I mean, I do agree with a lot of what you're saying, but sometimes I feel like people they can want something so much that they are willing to fool themselves into thinking they have what it is that they want, if that makes sense.
I
And
don't
I mean,
think
I'm
I
not
don't think she's doing that. I don't think she's doing that. But I get what you're saying. I get it. I do. And like we can find a happy little medium.
oh
I get
sure, yeah.
exactly what you're saying. And I know like I don't think at any point in the story without the exception of her being like, you know what? When Minchal starts making more money, we can go back to being a happy home. Like that is the one thing I wish is like a happy home. I'll do what I need to have a happy home, a happy life. Sometimes you gotta pump yourself up.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Like
She's
I
not
mean,
happy.
Yeah.
She's not
No,
happy, but she
she isn't.
still
She
she
isn't.
and she knows that, but she still is trying to maintain a level of normalcy because she does want to be with Mincheol and she does love him. And I was like, over time, literally, she at the beginning of the story, she was just like, have I lost my light because I love you? Did this love that I have for you wither me? Because he's like asking herself that. She doesn't think that they have an ideal relationship at all.
Oh,
But
yeah,
that
like, I
doesn't
agree
stop
with
her
that.
from showing consideration. So there's kinds of love that even when you hate the person you're with, because you care about them so deeply, you continue to do stuff because you care about them, not because you think you have to. And if she was doing everything out of perfunctory like obligation, she would have had sex with them. She would have fucked them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
Yeah, I'm not trying to really convince you. I just think that,
No, you're good. I
of
mean, it's okay for us to disagree. I think this is one of
course,
the very, very few things that we have ever disagreed
we're
on.
two sides of it, and it's okay. I personally think she loves him. I don't think that she thinks that she's in an ideal situation. I do not think that she does things simply because she's trying to it's perfunctory. I think she
Yeah.
does it out of consideration.
Well,
And she even with the cologne situation, like she didn't want to do it, but you know what? In that moment, she wanted to keep the peace, and she's like, "I'll figure this out. He's right. Like I'll
yeah.
figure."
Well, I mean, I will say that some of my rebuttals have to do with chapters beyond this, so that's why I
Yeah,
don't really wanna not that I don't
we
mind
can't.
talking about it, but I just don't wanna give away spoilers, so,
No
you know.
spoilers, no
But
spoilers.
we
I get what you're
Yeah,
saying, but
but we
in this
can agree
moment
that she is definitely unhappy here.
and I think what's funny about this situation is like in this moment of unhappiness, she's not really thinking of the moment itself. It's more what could have been. Because, in the next panels, like she literally has that epiphany what she thought about Taeha and him, offering acquaintanceship, not even friendship, but acquaintanceship.
Mhm.
And she just says, I see. I didn't realize I was being so embarrassing again because she's an embarrassment to Mincheol. She's an embarrassment. All she thinks about is like I embarrassed myself with someone who like reached out an olive branch to me, right? And
Mm.
then it goes on. We don't even know if she even like walked home in the rain or Mincheol like ran off with the umbrella, but we do see her the next day in the flower shop and she's sitting with her coworker, and her coworker just, lets out a groan of anxiety. She said, "God,
I wanna
I
go
want to go home,"
home.
which I get because I've done that at work too. And she's looking really drained. Her and Jesus are at the front desk looking at just drained and battered, and they're both like, her coworker goes on to say, "What's up with all these group orders? It's not even peak season yet. We should be getting paid extra for these. Seriously." And he also said, "Ugh, it feels like I just got run over by a truck." And Jesus said, "Why don't you take a break then and I can finish cleaning up?" And she, looks at her coworker. She gets up out of her seat and her coworker says, "Hey, you're an angel, Jesus." And she goes on complaining, "I swear, if someone walks through that door before I get off work, actually, the rose guy's fine. I need my energy boost." And then of course, as soon as she like summons the rose guy, here comes the rose guy
Mhm.
jingling through the door, and she looks up and she's like, "Shoot." And the coworker's like, "Another customer? Someone get me out of here." And she looks up and realizes that it's Taeha, and he walks in his little black coat. He looks around, and then you see him look at something. We can't tell really what he looking at. It looks like he's looking at the coworker, and the coworker is thinking, "No way, it's the rose guy. How is it? How is he always so freaking hot?" And Hazel is at the front, close to the front door, the entrance, picking up trash, right? And she looks and she sees Teha, and Hazel thinks, "Yeah, I'm sure." Well, actually, her coworkers thinks, "I'm sure he'll want Hazel to ring him up again." That's fine. Just means I get to rest for a bit longer. So he's walking. We see Jesus look up and start to say, "I can help you." But he walks past her and Jesus stops talking. Right? And she's kind of shocked. She has this like shock on her face. He walks past her and she's still holding, like trash in her arms, and that is where the chapter ends. So
Yeah,
basically, she ignored y'all.
yeah.
So
I mean, she got what she wanted. She told him that we're strangers, but I kind of feel like Taeha is kind of like taking this a little too literally, right?
malicious compliance.
Yeah. This is definitely malicious compliance because I think all Jesus wanted to do was just be like, look, you stay on your side, I'll stay on my side, we good, right? Just because she didn't want to be acquaintances doesn't mean she wanted him to give her the cold shoulder.
Absolutely not. Like she wanted things to go back to the way it was. He clarified. So you want us to continue to be strangers. And she said yes. And he was like, that we're really strangers. Now, we all know, come on. Like there's no reason for him to go in a flower shop.
Yeah.
This is the first time he actually ignored her and literally went over to the coworker to order his flowers. And he looked at her before he did it, like he glanced, and then he went back to what he was doing. I think she wanted the cold shoulder. She just wanted business as normal, as you said. But he was just like, well, you don't want to be anything. You don't have to be anything.
Yeah. I feel like he's kind of taking it out on her because he's a little butthurt, you know? Like, I don't know. Like, I just kind of feel like he didn't have to be that kind of way with her. Yeah. I think he's being kind of emo, and everybody on the
Speak.
server knows how I love to refer to Teha as little emo boy because he kind of is. He's allowed to feel his big boy feelings. He is entitled to feeling however he wants. But I kind of feel like he's being kind of an asshole right here because he's like straight up ignoring her. And it's like, this kind of just kind of clues me, well, at least in my humble opinion, it kind of clues me into his maturity level because this comes across as very childish to me. I don't know how it comes across to you, but it comes across to me as very childish.
Absolutely childish. It's not a mature move at all. Very dramatic. And like I said, it was about malicious compliance.
Malicious compliance.
Like, I'm gonna do what you said to the letter.
Yep.
So before, like, if you think about it, for the first chapter, he was coming into that flower shop, ordering stuff, not really having an opportunity to engage with her. And that is one way. Like you see her doing the perfunctory thing where she's just going about the paces and not even aware that he existed. And then finally he appeared into her world, right?
Mhm.
And they're interacting. And he's like, all right, well, you know what? Now you know I exist. So now you're gonna feel what it feels like to not exist. And that is not mature at all.
Nah, it really isn't. Like, bro, if you
Sure.
really wanna, like, get her attention, stop being a dick.
But he's like, by any means necessary. Like he don't have to, he could have not come into the shop at all. I don't care what anybody says. There is no need to buy a bouquet a day. There is no like other than maybe he likes to hoard roses, but we already had that cover where the roses are all over his apartment, basically laying on all of the sofa, covering surfaces. There's rose petals everywhere. There's no need for the roses. We don't know for sure right now, but clearly he's going into that shop for her. He said
Yeah, totally.
he wanted to be acquaintances. He's been coming in for months. He finally caught her attention. Then he had it, and then she said she doesn't want it. He doesn't want attention from him. So he's like, you're not gonna get attention from me, but I'm still coming to the shop because if he was that down, like not down bad and really compliant, he wouldn't come in at all.
No, he
So
wouldn't have.
he wants her to notice him. He wanted her to notice him, but he also wanted her to know that he's not noticing her.
Sorry.
You know what? The malicious compliance, because now she's like she's very a cerebral character. She was all in her head. She felt levels of shame about pushing him away. And now she's gonna have he doesn't know that she's gonna be thinking, OMG.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this was not exactly what she was expecting. I think she, like you said before, I think she was thinking more business as usual, but emo boy was like, "Well, you want me to treat you like a stranger?" Anyways,
He's a boy and do exactly what you say
exactly.
to the letter. 'Cause I'm a Boy, boy.
Yeah. Well, I will say that I was just looking through the comments on Webtoon, and, like, some of them are just so funny. Like, the top comment says, "I'm a good size, Lord have mercy." And it's got, like, 38,000 likes. And then
Dirty.
yeah, and then the other one, said, "You could totally feel the chill as he walked past her," with a little crying emoji. And then another one was, "Did she not hear him call her his cousin?"
Yes, she did. She heard it and she knew why he did it. It's because he said that we shouldn't say that we're married because we not married, which is true because it's embarrassing for people to know he living with his ex-wife, which is not true. It's embarrassing that you are a moneyless little bitch, Mincheol. That
Yep,
has nothing to do with the fact that you're living with your ex-wife because you can't afford to live anywhere else because you're a fucking scrub.
you are a
Not
fucking
because it's a
scrub.
and you treat your wife slash former wife slash still relationship partner like trash because you are trash and don't know how to appreciate anything from anyone. Doesn't matter who it's coming from. Sorry. I know, Auntie, you decided not to be it, but he's trash.
He
And
really
we know he's
is. He really is. And even looking at some of the comments on English Webtoon, they're kind of repeating that same sentiment. You know, like one says she seriously needs to realize that she has no obligations to be with Mincheol and that he is just using her. You know, Taeha is way better in every aspect, and I wonder how she will act the victim with them being strangers now. Whereas I can kind of understand the point. I'm just going to leave that there.
well, there's always chapter 6, 7, 8, 9. We got a ways to
Oh,
go with
yeah,
these.
we do. I mean, we are
We
in
got a
for one hell of a ride, my beautiful flowers.
hell of a
I
it's a lot.
mean,
It's a roller coaster.
oh, yeah.
No roller coaster. We're in for it. But this was a good chapter.
Yeah,
Well,
like,
compare and contrast.
I mean, there were some things that pissed me off about it, but I mean, I
Of
feel
course.
like it was warranted for the development of the plot. I feel like we got to get a little bit more. I feel like chapter by chapter, we're getting more insight on why we hate Minchol even more, and it was kinda nice to see, like, Jesus kind of enjoying being in the company of somebody else other than that fucking ginger. But how did you feel about the chapter?
Thought it was a very good chapter because it literally sets up. It goes from being in the character's head and like watching the machinations of Teha as he tries to like get closer, and in that moment they were closer. Like it was a very intimate setting,
Mm,
and
yes.
it made clear that this man is interested in her. And it made clear that Jesus was willing and ready to set boundaries that don't exist in a relationship or aren't reciprocated by her significant other. So it just shows you where everybody is on the page that is the relationships that are either forming or breaking. And I really like that because it just shows you where we are. Like,
Yeah, it really
no
does.
ambiguity whatsoever. And this particular chapter sets off a chain of events that no one but Minchall has himself to blame. But we'll go on to that later because guess what?
Yeah.
We got more chapters to go. But I like it because it just shows like, okay, this is how a stranger will treat you with kindness and consideration and compliance.
Mm,
If you have this person you've known for 13 years who will barely let you get a word in edgewise without chewing your whole skull off because he doesn't want to hear anything you have to say because he doesn't respect you.
yeah,
So
he
it's,
really
it's just
doesn't.
not at all. Not at all. Like awful. He's awful.
He
Awful.
really is the worst.
The worst, the lowest of the lowest. It doesn't get any better, people, but some people ship Jesus and Minchol.
I'm sorry. Just said bleh.
Condition. No, the gap is real. Because I'm like, I am like, what kind of relationships do you have? And this is judgment, all judgment. What kind of relationships have you formed where this is healthy? Let us listener know because nothing about their current state of affairs. I could give. We haven't gotten there yet. I don't care about their past so much as their present because the present is what is pertinent and relevant in the state of their relationship. You can have a gorgeous past with someone, and then your present can be shit town. And
Yeah.
theirs is shit. They are absolute it's actually a whole pile of it, and it's not being used for compost, it's just littering the streets like little landmines for anyone who steps in it and gets their shoes dirty and makes them stink. There's nothing about this relationship that is reciprocated, proper, and non-toxic. So when
Yeah,
people look at this and they're like, "Oh, well, in the past," well, yeah, everybody can be a different person in the past, but what about your present? Because if you're
exactly.
this is the
Exactly.
present. This is the present situation you're in. I can't say just leave him, girl, but just leave him, girl. But it's not. It's more complex than that. I know.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
with you on that.
it's more complex than, and it's not an easy situation. This woman is trying to navigate the complexities of a relationship that is going down the drain quickly while forming new relationships, especially when she doesn't actually have any friends and all she does is work. And we're getting to see her navigate the complexities of forming new relationships and starting again from square one because her relationship with her husband is not so great.
Yeah. But, you know what, though? I'm really happy that we will eventually get to see her branch out a little bit because I feel like her development as a person has been kind of hindered because of Mincheol. And I feel like he holds her back in so many ways. And I know that we're only 5 chapters in, but it will be really nice to see her when she turns into the beautiful butterfly that we know she will be.
So she's a beautiful butterfly.
She is.
She just has tattered wings because she is a beautiful woman. She feels old, but she is not old. She's just not old.
Mm,
Like in retirement ages, Lord forbid, she's still has life ahead of her. It's probably hard to see the forest through the trees, but she is a very pretty woman. She's very vibrant and she's kind to people around her without expecting anything at all from anyone around her. She is kind and she's considerate and she is caring. And she doesn't ignore people. Sorry, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you, baby. She doesn't like go out of her way to make people uncomfortable. She does what she needs to take care of people. She works in customer facing roles and she treats people with just a modicum of dignity and respect.
yeah, she really does. I mean, I feel like she does have a very warm and caring heart. And I think a lot of times, like, some people will mistake that for weakness or something like that, which that's not
Hmm.
necessarily true. But I know some people will mistake kindness for weakness. At the end of the day, she's just trying to do the best she can, which with what she has, which isn't very much. And I
Yeah.
know that, like, a lot of people in the fandom, especially, like, recently, have been, like, dissing on her, and calling her, like, a weak character, but, you can't expect a woman who has put up with this level of abuse for almost all of her life just instantly turn into, like, a bad bitch, number 1. That's just not how that works. I'm just really excited to see, like, how she will grow. And I mean, we're starting to see that growth now early on where she after Mincheol berates her and it's like, "Oh, well, men and women can be friends regardless of their gender." And she's like, "Okay." So I feel like that gave her something to think about and I
Permission.
yep, and I think she's gonna roll with it after Taeha gets over being emo and
If he gets over it, If he gets over his like giving the cold shoulder like the baby. If he gets over it, then maybe she'll like be a little bit more vulnerable. But I do want to also put something out there. The clear contrast in the way she communicates with Teha versus Minchol. Teha, it's like a clean slate because she's like, all right, we're talking. I'm gonna just tell you what I'm thinking, even if it's weird. Whereas with Minchol, she barely can get a word in edgewise, but she still says stuff to him, even when it could lead to an argument because she can't hold that in. But the way that she communicates with Teja is clearly different too. I just want to
definitely.
put that out there.
It makes me kinda
And
wonder too if maybe it's because of the age thing, because I know, like, in Korea or South Korea, I know, like, a lot of deference is given if somebody's older than you, then, you kind of give them a little bit more respect. So I wonder if there's like some cultural things going on there too. But
Huh? But to be honest with you, he's never said his age.
that's true.
He didn't he she doesn't know his name. She didn't ask. So, like, there's a clear assumption that he's younger and, popular. She's made all these assumptions about him, which are actually correct. He is young. Women see him and they're like, "Oh, baby." Like, we already know there's one girl who's like, "Look at him, I love you." But these are all assumptions without any like quantifying data of any sort to back it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the whole "I'm a Nuna to you" is like she's assuming the big sister role without it being true.
Yeah.
And both of them have baby faces, which is not unrealistic at all, believe it or not. Like, hey, first of all, they are Korean. Listen, I don't know who's age what. This is coming from a woman of color. I don't know how old people are until they tell you.
Yeah.
Start there. 30-year-olds don't look old. People don't know what 30 looks like anymore. In this world where we have cosmetic surgery, we have good skincare, people are starting to wear sunscreen, drink more water, and we're not smack dab in the middle of the depression of the 1920s.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
30s look a little bit different than what was portrayed. Like, we had 30-year-old people in high school dramas, still in high school dramas. So you don't know what 30 looks like. Let's just start there because I mean, a lot of lip service around thinking that Jesus supposed to look old and hungry, which I already refuted because a woman just gets breakfast sometimes. She don't. There's food in the house. There's always
Mhm.
food in the house.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm not gonna get into that rant today.
Yeah,
Get into it maybe
that's an
next chapter.
episode for another day.
I just wanted to put on everyone's the listeners' radar when you're looking at chapter 5, be very observant of how she interacts with Taeha versus Mincheol, and then keep that in the back of your mind when you
Yeah.
think about Hasten.
Certainly lots to think about.
Lots to think about, but that was a pleasure talking about this chapter.
Yeah.
Easy breezy.
All right, my beautiful flowers. Well, that about does it for this episode of the Withered Flowers podcast. I have been your host, Auntie Lura, and with me was Digital Gurl. We appreciate you tuning in. Please hit like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you want to join our community, we do have a very good Discord open to all. The link will be in the show notes. We have all kinds of people on there, all kinds of conversation. So please stop by and say hello. Just let them know that Auntie and Digital Gurl sent you. And with that, we will see you next time. Thank you for listening.
Ian.
The Withered Flowers podcast is hosted by Digital Gurl and Auntie Lura. Produced and edited by Auntie Lura. Music is Bodega Cat by Dayala. If you would like to join our Discord, please see the link in the show notes. And special thanks to our family, friends, and spouses that have supported us while producing this podcast. We would also like to thank all of our Discord members as well. Without you, we wouldn't be here. Until next time.